Continuing on with quadratics, I want to point out a few different things. We have what we call standard form. And standard form for a quadratic is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And let me give you an example. Y equals negative 5x squared plus 3x minus 2. The a is just the coefficient in front of the x squared. Coefficient, remember, is a fancy word for the number in front of the quadratic term. So a is just your negative 5. B in this case is positive 3. So you want to make sure you take the sign also. And then C is just your constant. Now, in the last video, we talked about y equals x squared right here in red. That's considered the parent function. And y equals x squared opens up. And so it has what we talked about as a minimum value. Well, right here, for both graphs, happen to be like the point, I kind of think of it as the point of symmetry. If you were to fold that parabola in half, like along that y-axis, that vertex is kind of right in the middle, kind of like you think of a vertex for an angle. And so a vertex is just a point. So in this case, the vertex is 0, 0. We also have where I was talking about when you fold that quadratic, you have what we call the axis of symmetry. I'm going to erase this so it doesn't get in the way. And so you can visualize just an axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is always going to be a vertical line with a parabola. And most of you, if you know how to write equations for vertical lines, may be able to do this just by looking at it. And so this one would be x equals 0 because it's the y-axis. Now, we do have a formula for the axis of symmetry. It's x equals a negative b over 2a. Well, remember we talked about what is a, b, and c. So in this parent function, the a is 1. So we've got x equals a negative b. We've got to talk about what is b over 2 times 1. Well, notice how in our parent function, there's not a b term. Like I could even write this at y equals x squared plus 0x. So my b is really 0. And if I were to simplify that equation, we would have a negative 0, which is just 0 over 2. So I would still end up with the same axis of symmetry, x equals 0. So what you're going to want to make sure that you know how to do is, can you identify the vertex? If it's opening up, it's going to be your minimum point. If it's like the blue parabola that's opening down, so this is y equals a negative x squared. So notice this is opening down. When your parabola opens down, you actually have a maximum point. So if I erased this y equals x squared parent function, you're going to have a maximum point right at 0, 0. There's your maximum point. And just as a review, the domain is going to be all real numbers. So I'm just going to do that fancy R. It's going left and right forever, and the domain is your X values. Your range for this graph is Y is less than or equal to 0. So what we're going to do, I'm going to try to fit this in here with set notation. And that is your range.